All right. So today we are going like way deep into autonomy.
Okay.
But not just like what it means,
Yeah.
like how it actually like plays out in our lives,
Right.
You've given us this really fascinating mix of material.
Yeah.
We've got articles about people like going off the grid,
Okay.
blog posts about the psychology of like self-determination,
Interesting.
even a Wikipedia entry on like financial independence.
Wow. So it seems like you're really trying to get a handle on autonomy from all angles.
Yeah.
Practical, even psychological.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about being independent,
Right.
but about that feeling of truly like being in the driver's seat of your own life.
Exactly. So how can we like cultivate more autonomy in our modern world
Right.
to kind of kick things off? Let's look at some modern examples of self-reliance.
Okay.
Like one article dives into like off-grid living,
Oh, yeah.
where people are like generating their own power and collecting rainwater,
Wow.
even building their homes with sustainable materials.
Yeah.
It's like stepping off the map in a way.
Yeah. It's a powerful example of intentionally minimizing reliance on systems.
Right.
A conscious choice to define what self-sufficiency looks like in the 21st century.
And it's not just about like surviving in the wilderness.
Right.
We see echoes of this in the rise of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
where people are using their skills to create their own opportunities.
There's a definite shift in mindset there.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are often driven by a desire for control over their own destinies.
Right.
Becoming captains of their own ships, so to speak.
Speaking of captains, you mentioned trying to fix your own leaky faucet recently.
Oh, yeah. Let's just say plumbing might not be my path to self-sufficiency.
Okay.
But you're right. The DIY movement is booming.
Yeah.
Whether it's fixing appliances or building furniture or growing your own food.
Right.
It's about reclaiming those practical life skills
Well,
and feeling empowered to tackle challenges yourself.
and it's not always a solo mission.
Right.
We also have some information about community gardens,
Oh, interesting.
where people come together to collectively grow their own food.
It highlights how autonomy can actually be fostered through collaboration.
Yeah.
Like community gardens show that self-reliance doesn't have to mean isolation.
Right.
It can be about achieving shared goals while still maintaining individual agency.
Now let's kind of shift gears and delve into the psychology of all this.
Okay.
One source explains self-determination theory,
Oh, yeah.
which says autonomy, relatedness, and competence are like core psychological needs.
Self-determination theory is fascinating.
Yeah.
It argues that when those three needs are met, we're more likely to thrive.
Right.
Autonomy in this context is about feeling that our actions are self-chosen and reflect our true values.
One source actually argues that autonomy can sometimes be a delusion.
Mm.
Really made me think like how much of what we perceive as independent choice is actually influenced by outside forces.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It challenges us to examine how much of our independence is truly self-directed and how much is shaped by things like our upbringing, societal expectations, or
Yeah.
even the opinions of our peers.
So are we truly free agents,
Right.
or are we just products of our environment,
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously conforming to what's expected of us?
I see what you mean.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
factors actually shape our sense of autonomy?
It seems there's a complex interplay at work.
Okay.
The research points to things like parenting styles,
Yeah.
childhood experiences, and
Wow.
even cultural background having a significant influence on how we develop a sense of autonomy.
It makes you wonder if like being encouraged to make choices and explore our interests as kids
Yeah.
versus being told what to do all the time
Mm-hmm.
has a lasting impact.
Absolutely. And cultural influences are also key.
Okay.
Individualistic cultures tend to prize autonomy above all else,
Yeah.
while collectivist cultures may see autonomy as a means to support the community's goals.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all concept.
Yeah. So the concept of autonomy can have different meanings and implications depending on where you are in the world.
Right.
But regardless of cultural context, it seems like having at least some level of autonomy is crucial for our well-being.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What happens when we feel like we don't have enough control over our lives?
The research paints a pretty clear picture.
Oh, no.
A lack of autonomy is linked to decreased motivation,
Uh-huh.
lower life satisfaction, even increased stress and feelings of burnout.
Wow.
It's like constantly swimming against the current.
Right.
It can be incredibly draining.
So if we want to cultivate more autonomy in our lives,
Yeah.
where do we even begin?
Right.
Is it something we can actually learn and develop?
Mm.
Or are we just stuck with whatever level of autonomy we were raised with?
It's not about being stuck at all.
Okay.
The good news is that there are concrete steps we can take to boost our sense of autonomy.
Okay.
One of the most powerful is building self-efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
That belief in our own ability to handle different situations and achieve our goals.
Self-efficacy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Uh-huh.
The more we believe we can handle things,
Right.
the more likely we are to actually take those steps towards greater independence.
Exactly.
How can we actually build that belief in ourselves?
It's not about some magical overnight transformation.
Okay.
The research suggests focusing on small wins,
Uh,
practicing new skills,
right.
setting realistic goals,
Okay.
and then actually acknowledging and celebrating those achievements.
I like it.
It's like building a muscle.
Yeah.
The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
And it's not just about practical skills, right?
No, you're right.
It's also about recognizing our own inherent worth.
Mm-hmm.
One source really emphasized the importance of valuing our own opinions
Right.
and trusting our gut instincts.
You hit the nail on the head.
I did.
Autonomy isn't just about doing things. It's
Okay.
about knowing ourselves,
Ha.
trusting our judgment,
Right.
honoring our needs, not being afraid to express our authentic selves, even if it goes against the grain.
And speaking of going against the grain,
Yeah.
one source talked about the importance of surrounding ourselves with supportive relationships.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, people who encourage our independence and celebrate our individuality.
Having that kind of supportive network can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
It provides a safe space to explore, experiment, and grow without feeling judged
Right.
or pressured to conform.
Yeah.
It gives you the freedom to try, fail, and try again without losing that sense of self.
So we've explored practical ways to become more self-reliant,
Yeah.
dug into the psychology of autonomy,
Uh-huh.
and even touched on the influence of culture.
Right.
Now let's talk about something that often feels very intertwined with autonomy.
Okay, what's that?
Money.
Yes, financial independence.
Yes.
A term that sparks a lot of emotions, both positive and negative.
Right.
What's interesting here is that the sources position financial independence as a crucial aspect of overall autonomy.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
When you're not constantly worried about making ends meet,
Mm-hmm.
you have more mental space to pursue your passions.
Right?
Make choices that truly align with your values
Yeah.
and really create a life that reflects your own definition of success.
It's about having options.
Yeah, it's about having options.
Exactly. Financial independence is about having the security to pursue your own path
Right.
without being tethered to a job or someone else's expectations.
And the sources highlight a variety of ways to achieve this.
Oh, like what?
Investments, passive income streams, even just being strategic about saving for retirement.
I see.
It's not just about winning the lottery.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices that create more financial freedom over time.
And it's important to remember that financial independence isn't a one-size-fits-all goal.
Right.
It's about defining what that looks like for you.
Okay.
Having enough to cover your living expenses and pursue the things that matter most without being beholden to a paycheck.
One source actually said, financial independence is about having the resources to live your desired life without relying on a job.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about being rich. It's about having enough to feel truly free, to make choices that align with your values.
I love that framing.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the money itself.
Right.
The psychological impact of having that financial security can be huge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Less stress, more confidence, even the willingness to take risks and pursue those what-if dreams that might have felt too scary before.
It's like taking a deep breath and finally having the space to focus on what truly matters.
Yeah.
Speaking of what truly matters, one source talked about the importance of intentional living.
Oh, okay.
Making choices with mindfulness and purpose, aligning your actions with your deepest values.
Right.
It's not just about freedom from constraints, but freedom to create a life that reflects your authentic self.
That resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's about asking those big questions.
Like,
what is my purpose?
Huh?
What makes me feel truly alive?
Right.
And then actually structuring your life in a way that reflects those answers.
It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Continually refining your understanding of yourself, your goals,
Right.
and what brings you genuine fulfillment.
And it's important to remember that our needs for autonomy can evolve as we do.
For sure.
One source actually argued that flexibility and adaptability are key principles of autonomous living.
Interesting.
It suggests that embracing change and being willing to pivot when necessary.
Okay.
As long as those changes are in alignment with our core values, can actually enhance our sense of autonomy.
It's like being the captain of your own ship, navigating the ever-changing waters of life.
Right.
While still staying true to your internal compass.
Yeah.
It's about maintaining that sense of control even when the seas get rough.
Now, we've been talking about autonomy as this positive thing.
Yeah.
But one source brought up a really thought-provoking point.
Okay. What's that?
The potential for it to be a delusion.
A delusion.
That really made me stop and think.
It definitely raises some important questions.
Yeah.
How much of what we perceive as autonomous choice is truly our own?
Right.
And how much is actually shaped by those external forces we talked about earlier?
Mm-hmm.
The expectations of our families, society, even of friends.
It's like that age-old question.
Yeah.
Are we truly free?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we just products of our environment,
Right.
unconsciously playing out the roles that have been handed to us?
The source argues that true autonomy requires conscious awareness of those influences,
Okay.
a deep understanding of our own motivations,
Mm-hmm.
and the factors that shape our choices.
So it's about moving beyond blind conformity
Right.
and making choices that are truly aligned with our own internal compass,
Exactly.
not just someone else's map.
It's a call for introspection,
Yeah.
for examining our beliefs and behaviors with a critical eye.
So it's about recognizing those unconscious biases
Mm-hmm.
and questioning those ingrained beliefs that might be holding us back from living a truly self-directed life.
Right.
It's about taking ownership of our choices,
Yeah,
even the ones that might have been influenced by outside forces.
exactly. It's about stepping into that driver's seat and taking control of the wheel.
And that's a powerful act of self-determination.
It is.
But we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
The practicality of self-reliance,
Yeah.
the psychology behind autonomy, the influence of culture, even the potential for delusion.
Mm-hmm.
What's really striking me is how central self-awareness seems to be in all of this.
I agree.
It feels like the foundation of true autonomy is a deep understanding of oneself,
Yeah,
one's values, motivations, and place in the world.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Without that foundation of self-awareness,
Why?
it's easy to get swept away by external forces,
Wow.
to make choices that don't feel truly our own,
Right.
and to live a life that doesn't resonate with our authentic selves.
But how do we actually cultivate that self-awareness?
Right.
It's not something you can just download like an app, right?
You're right. It's not a quick fix. The sources suggest it's an ongoing process of introspection, reflection, and even experimentation.
I see.
It's about paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing those moments when your actions don't match your values.
Right.
Or when you feel resistance to external expectations.
It's like tuning into that inner voice,
Yeah.
the one that sometimes gets drowned out by all the noise of the world.
Exactly. And it can involve exploring new experiences,
Yeah.
stepping outside of your comfort zone, even challenging your own long-held beliefs.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's in those moments of discomfort and uncertainty
Right.
that we discover who we truly are and what we really value.
One source actually used a really interesting metaphor.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
They said we should approach life like an artist,
Okay.
painting our experiences as a form of self-expression,
Uh-huh.
without worrying about whether other people like our art or not.
I love that.
Yeah.
It encourages us to embrace creativity and authenticity to
Right.
create a life that's uniquely our own.
Yeah.
A masterpiece that reflects our individual spirit.
And to celebrate the individuality of others,
Yes.
recognizing that everyone is on their own unique journey of self-discovery, creating their own unique masterpieces.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Absolutely. That acceptance of diversity, both within ourselves and in others,
Yeah.
is another key element of autonomous living.
Uh-huh.
It's about letting go of the need to judge or compare
Right.
and simply appreciating the richness and complexity of individual experience.
Earlier, we talked about financial independence as a facet of autonomy,
Yeah.
but one source took it a step further,
Okay.
emphasizing the importance of building sustainable structures and systems,
Mm-hmm.
not just in our finances,
Right.
but in our lives as a whole.
Interesting.
What do you think they meant by that?
It's about creating systems and habits that support our well-being in the long term.
Okay.
Not just for a quick fix or a temporary boost.
Right.
It's about thinking holistically about how we structure our lives to create a sense of stability, purpose, and resilience.
So it's about those daily practices that nurture our physical, mental, and emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
Getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, moving our bodies,
Right.
spending time in nature,
Yeah.
and cultivating a sense of mindfulness and presence in our daily lives.
Exactly. And it's about setting boundaries,
Uh-huh.
prioritizing self-care,
Yeah.
and nurturing those relationships that bring us joy and support.
Right.
It's about creating that inner infrastructure that allows us to handle life's inevitable challenges with more grace and ease.
And those structures and systems are going to look different for everyone, right?
Of course.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Uh-huh.
It's about finding that personalized approach to self-care and sustainable living.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It's about experimenting, listening to your body and mind,
Yeah.
and creating a lifestyle that feels both nourishing and sustainable for you.
It's about paying attention to those internal cues.
Yeah.
What energizes us, what drains us, what makes us feel truly alive,
Right.
and then making choices that support those needs and desires.
And it's important to remember that building sustainable structures and systems is an ongoing process.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's about making adjustments along the way as our needs and circumstances change.
Right.
What worked for us 5 years ago might not work for us today, and that's okay.
It's about being adaptable, flexible, and willing to experiment with different approaches
Yeah,
until we find what truly works for us in each season of our lives.
exactly. It's about that continuous process of self-discovery and refinement, of
Right.
learning to live in a way that feels both authentic and sustainable in the long run.
One source actually talked about the importance of embracing a warrior mindset when it comes to change.
Interesting.
I was struck by that.
Yeah.
What do you think they meant by that in the context of autonomy?
I think it's about recognizing that the journey towards greater autonomy isn't always going to be easy.
Right.
There will be challenges, setbacks, and moments of self-doubt. Uh-huh.
A warrior mindset is about approaching those challenges with courage,
Yeah,
resilience, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones,
I like that.
knowing that growth often happens on the other side of discomfort.
So it's about viewing obstacles not as roadblocks,
Uh-huh.
but as opportunities for learning and growth.
Right.
It's about embracing the messiness of the process
Yeah,
and trusting that we have the strength to navigate whatever comes our way.
precisely. It's about cultivating that inner strength and determination to persevere,
Right.
even when faced with adversity.
Yeah.
It's about remembering that we are capable of far more than we often give ourselves credit for.
Now, we've been talking about autonomy as this primarily individual thing, but one source really emphasized the importance of understanding autonomy in the context of something called social emotional learning.
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm not really familiar with that term.
Right.
Can you shed some light on what that means
Sure.
and how it connects to autonomy? It's a fascinating field that's gaining a lot of attention.
Okay.
Basically, social emotional learning focuses on developing the skills and awareness needed to understand and manage our emotions,
Okay.
build healthy relationships,
Right.
make responsible decisions, and
Yeah.
show empathy and compassion towards others.
So it's about those essential life skills that allow us to navigate the complexities of human interaction
Yes.
with more awareness and intentionality.
Exactly.
But how does that connect back to autonomy?
Well, if we think of autonomy as the ability to make self-directed choices aligned with our values, then social emotional learning provides the foundation for making those choices with greater wisdom and responsibility.
It's like having a strong moral compass
Right.
that helps us navigate those tricky ethical dilemmas that inevitably come up in life.
Exactly. Without those social and emotional skills,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in reactivity,
Yeah.
to make impulsive choices that we later regret, and to get derailed from our goals by external pressures and emotional triggers.
It's like having that inner stability and emotional intelligence to stay true to ourselves.
Yeah.
Even when surrounded by chaos or conflicting demands.
Absolutely. Social emotional learning provides the foundation for self-regulation,
Okay.
resilience, and the ability to navigate complex social situations with greater awareness and intention.
So it's about responding, not reacting.
Exactly.
And the sources suggest that social emotional learning is not just something we develop in childhood.
Right.
It's a lifelong process of growth and refinement.
Uh-huh.
It's not like we hit a certain age and suddenly we've mastered all these skills.
Yeah.
It's something we continue to learn and grow in throughout our lives.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing journey of self-discovery and relationship building,
Yeah.
of learning to understand ourselves and others more deeply, and of developing the skills to navigate the complexities of life with greater wisdom and compassion.
It sounds like it's about cultivating that balance between honoring our own needs and desires
Right.
while also recognizing the needs and perspectives of others.
Yeah.
It's about creating a sense of harmony between individual and collective well-being.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks.
It's about recognizing that true autonomy is not just about individual freedom,
Right.
but about using that freedom to create a more just compassionate and sustainable world for ourselves and for future generations.
And that's a powerful vision to strive for.
Absolutely. It's a vision that inspires us to keep learning, keep growing, and keep using our autonomy to make a positive difference in the world.
Okay, so earlier we talked about building sustainable structures and systems in our lives. But one source highlighted the importance of this, not just on a personal level, but on a societal level as well.
Interesting.
What do you think it means to promote autonomy at a community or even national level?
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is.
I think it involves creating systems and structures that empower individuals to participate fully in shaping their own destinies and the destiny of their communities. It's about creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to exercise their autonomy and contribute to a shared vision of a just and thriving world.
So it's about things like self-governance, economic independence, and ensuring that individuals within that community have the freedom and resources to make choices that reflect their own values and aspirations.
Exactly. And it also involves ensuring that those choices are made with a sense of responsibility towards the collective good. It's about creating a balance between individual freedom and social responsibility.
So it's about creating a social and political structure that supports both individual and collective autonomy, where everyone feels empowered to contribute their unique talents and perspectives to creating a world that works for everyone.
Absolutely. And that requires a commitment to democratic principles, social justice, and the equitable distribution of resources. It's about ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table and that their voices are heard.
It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to exercise their autonomy and contribute to a shared vision of a just and thriving society.
A powerful vision indeed, and one that requires ongoing dialogue, collaboration, and a commitment to creating systems that empower everyone to participate fully in shaping their own destinies and the destiny of their communities.
We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of autonomy.
We have.
But one source got real about the specific challenges people face when trying to become more self-reliant in today's world.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
No, it's not. What were some of the hurdles that stood out to you?
It's interesting because the source pointed out that even though we have access to more information and technology than ever before, there can still be significant barriers to true self-reliance.
It's almost like a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
We have all these tools at our disposal, yet many people feel more overwhelmed and disempowered than ever before.
Exactly. And the source identified a few key challenges.
Okay, like what?
One is limited access to resources. Even with the internet, not everyone has equal access to education, healthcare, affordable housing, or even basic necessities like food and clean water.
Yeah, those are important.
These are fundamental building blocks for self-sufficiency.
So it's about recognizing those systemic inequalities and working to create a more equitable distribution of resources so that everyone has a fair chance to thrive, regardless of their background or circumstances.
Absolutely. And then there are the systemic barriers. Policies, laws, and social norms that can perpetuate inequality and limit opportunities for certain groups of people. These barriers can make it incredibly difficult for individuals to achieve true autonomy.
It's about challenging those systems. And advocating for policies that promote fairness, inclusion, and equal opportunity for all. It's about creating a level playing field where everyone has the chance to succeed.
And let's not forget the societal expectations that can sometimes stifle our desire for autonomy. The pressure to conform to certain career paths, relationship models, or even lifestyle choices that don't necessarily align with our own values and aspirations can be incredibly powerful and can make it difficult to step off the beaten path.
It's like there's this invisible script that we're all supposed to follow. And if you deviate from it, we risk being judged or ostracized. It takes courage to break free from that.
It does.
And define success on our own terms.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to challenge those expectations.
Right.
And to forge our own path, even if it means facing criticism or disapproval. It's about trusting our inner compass and choosing authenticity over conformity.
The source also talked about the internal challenges that can get in the way.
Oh, yeah, those can be tough.
Things like fear of failure, lack of self-belief, and the uncertainty that can sometimes paralyze us from taking those first steps towards greater autonomy.
It's like those inner critics can be more formidable than any external obstacle.
Yeah, they can be tough.
Absolutely. Our own thoughts and beliefs can be our biggest hurdles.
Right.
But the good news is that we have the power to challenge those thoughts.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And to develop strategies to manage them.
How do we do that?
It's about building self-efficacy, seeking support from mentors, and practicing self-compassion when we inevitably stumble.
Right.
It's about remembering that we are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
And that we have the power to choose which thoughts we give our attention to.
It's about remembering that failure is a part of the learning process.
Absolutely.
And that even small steps taken consistently can lead to significant progress over time. It's about celebrating those small wins and giving ourselves permission to be imperfect along the way.
And it's about cultivating that inner resilience. The ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward on our journey towards greater autonomy.
Yeah.
It's about remembering that setbacks are not the end of the story. They are simply opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow.
One source really dove into how education and skill development can foster self-reliance.
Makes sense.
It seems like it's not just about acquiring knowledge,
right,
but about developing the confidence and competence to apply that knowledge in real-world situations.
You're absolutely right. Education and skill development equip individuals with the tools they need to navigate the world independently and to create opportunities for themselves.
Right.
It's about empowering people to become active participants in their own lives and communities.
It's about providing access to quality education that goes beyond rote memorization and empowers individuals to think critically, solve problems, and adapt to changing circumstances.
It's about fostering creativity, innovation, and a lifelong love of learning. Exactly. And it's not just about formal education. It's also about providing opportunities for vocational training, apprenticeships, and mentorship programs that allow individuals to develop practical skills and gain real-world experience.
It's about recognizing that different people learn in different ways. And creating pathways for everyone to discover their passions. Experts.
Just to discover their passions, develop their talents, and contribute to society in meaningful ways.
It's about creating a society that values lifelong learning. And provides opportunities for people of all ages and backgrounds to continue growing and expanding their skill sets.
And the sources suggest that investing in education and skill development isn't just about individual empowerment. It has broader economic implications as well.
Okay, how so?
A skilled and adaptable workforce is essential for economic growth and societal progress.
So it's about creating a virtuous cycle. Investing in education and skill development leads to a more productive and innovative workforce, which in turn contributes to economic growth, which then creates more resources to invest back into education and skill development.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. It's about recognizing that education and skill development are not just personal investments, but societal investments that benefit everyone in the long run.
We've been using the terms autonomy and independence somewhat interchangeably. But one source pointed out a subtle but important distinction between the two.
Oh, interesting.
Can you elaborate on that difference?
I think it's a really helpful nuance to understand.
Okay.
While they are often used synonymously, I'd say independence refers more to the practical ability to function without relying on others for basic needs or support.
Okay.
It's about having those essential life skills.
Like what?
Being able to cook clean, manage finances, take care of your physical needs. It's about self-sufficiency in a very practical sense.
So independence is about those external capabilities, being able to do things for yourself.
Exactly. But autonomy goes deeper than that.
Okay.
It encompasses that internal sense of freedom, self-determination, and the ability to make choices that are truly aligned with your own values. Even if those choices differ from what's expected of you or what those around you might prefer.
Okay.
It's about that inner freedom to choose your own path, regardless of external pressures.
So independence is about the external ability to do things on your own.
Right.
While autonomy is about the internal freedom to choose how you want to live your life.
Precisely. And while independence is often a prerequisite for autonomy, it's not always the case.
Okay.
You can be independent and still feel trapped by external pressures or societal expectations.
Right.
True autonomy requires that inner sense of self-direction and the courage to make choices that reflect your authentic self, even if they go against the grain.
It's about having that inner compass.
Yes.
That sense of knowing what's true for you and having the courage to follow that path, even if it leads you off the beaten track.
Beautifully put. It's about embracing that journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And living a life that feels both meaningful and authentic to you.
One source used the term psychological freedom.
Okay.
And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what that might mean.
Sure.
In the context of all we've been discussing.
If we think of autonomy as the ability to make those self-directed choices, then psychological freedom suggests a state of mind where we've liberated ourselves from those internal constraints.
Like what?
The limiting beliefs, fears, and self-doubt that can hold us back from living a truly autonomous life.
So it's about those mental and emotional barriers that we often create for ourselves.
Exactly.
The voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough to pursue our dreams.
It's about recognizing those voices and developing the skills and awareness to challenge them.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating self-compassion, resilience, and the belief in our own inherent worthiness.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we all have the capacity to grow, to heal, and to create a life that feels both authentic and fulfilling.
And the sources suggest that psychological freedom is not something we achieve overnight.
Right. It takes time.
But rather an ongoing process of self-discovery. Inner work, and the willingness to challenge our own limiting beliefs and patterns.
So it's a journey of continuous growth and expansion.
Absolutely. It's about showing up for ourselves with kindness and curiosity.
Okay.
About embracing the messy process of self-discovery.
Right.
And about trusting that we have the inner strength to break free from those self-imposed limitations.
One source even suggested that psychological freedom is not just about individual well-being, but about creating a more just and compassionate world.
Oh, wow.
That really struck me.
Can you elaborate on that connection?
It's a powerful connection, isn't it?
That is.
When we feel free and empowered within ourselves, we're more likely to extend that freedom and compassion to others.
Okay.
We're more likely to challenge systems of oppression and injustice.
Right.
And to advocate for policies and practices that create a more equitable and just world for everyone.
It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah.
The more we heal and liberate ourselves, the more we contribute to the healing and liberation of the world around us.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our individual liberation is interconnected with the liberation of others.
Right.
And that's a vision of autonomy that truly inspires me.
We've talked a lot about the importance of social connection and support in fostering autonomy.
Yeah, for sure.
But one source brought up a point that initially seemed counterintuitive to me.
Okay, what's that?
The importance of being able to be alone.
It does seem a bit paradoxical, doesn't it?
It does.
We often think of autonomy in the context of community, belonging and connection with others.
Right.
But the source makes a compelling case
for
why being comfortable with solitude is actually a key component of true autonomy.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Being alone gives us that space to connect with our own thoughts and feelings, to reflect on our experiences, and to make choices that are truly our own, without feeling the need for constant external validation or approval.
I see what you mean.
It's about cultivating that inner sense of self-reliance and self-acceptance.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming a hermit or withdrawing from the world altogether. It's about finding that balance between connection and solitude, knowing when to reach out for support and when to retreat inward for reflection and self-nurturing. It's about honoring both our need for connection and our need for space.
It's about recognizing that both connection and solitude are essential for our well-being, and that cultivating both can actually enhance our sense of autonomy.
Absolutely. It's about finding that sweet spot where we feel both connected to others and deeply rooted in ourselves.
One source even suggested that being able to be alone can enhance our creativity.
Oh, that's interesting.
And problem-solving abilities. I could see that.
Yeah.
When we create that space for quiet reflection, sometimes those aha moments emerge.
Yeah.
And those innovative solutions appear that we might have missed if we were constantly surrounded by noise and distractions.
It's about giving ourselves permission to unplug.
Right.
To disconnect from the constant stream of information and stimulation, and to simply be present with ourselves and our own thoughts. And in that space, creativity and insight can flourish.
It's about creating that mental and emotional space for new ideas to emerge and to take shape.
Exactly. And that creative spark can be a powerful fuel for innovation, both in our personal lives and in the world around us.
We've explored a lot of positive aspects of autonomy.
We have.
But one source reminded us that even with the best intentions, there's always a potential for unintended consequences.
It's a crucial reminder, isn't it?
It is.
The source cautions us to be mindful of the potential pitfalls of autonomy.
Okay.
Even when pursued with the noblest of goals.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most empowering concepts can be distorted or misused if we're not careful.
Can you give us an example of what some of those pitfalls might look like?
Well, for instance, if autonomy is pursued without a sense of social responsibility, it can easily slip into individualism, isolation, and even a disregard for the well-being of others.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's about remembering that true autonomy is not just about personal freedom, but about using that freedom in a way that benefits both ourselves and the world around us.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we are all interconnected and that our choices have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
So it's about finding that balance between individual freedom and collective responsibility.
Exactly.
Recognizing that our choices impact not just ourselves, but also the communities and ecosystems we're a part of.
And if autonomy is pursued without a solid foundation of self-awareness, it can lead to poor decision-making, impulsivity, and even a lack of accountability for our actions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It can become a form of self-indulgence rather than a pathway to true liberation.
So it's about developing that inner compass.
Yes.
That sense of knowing what's truly important to us and making choices that align with our values and long-term goals.
Right.
Not just our immediate desires or impulses.
And it's about being willing to own our mistakes. To learn from them and to course correct when necessary.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility for our actions and their impact on others.
And what about flexibility?
Oh, that's a good one.
Can clinging too tightly to autonomy backfire?
Absolutely. If autonomy is pursued without a willingness to be flexible and adaptable, it can lead to rigidity. Resistance to change, and even a sense of being trapped by our own self-imposed rules and expectations.
Yeah, I could see that.
It can become a prison of our own making.
So it's about recognizing that life is a constant dance between structure and flexibility. Between holding onto our values and being open to new possibilities. It's about finding that balance between staying true to ourselves and embracing the unknown.
It's about remembering that the journey of autonomy is not about achieving some fixed state of being, but rather about embracing the ever-changing nature of life. And recognizing that true autonomy involves a willingness to adjust our course as needed, to learn from our experiences, and to evolve our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a dance.
It is.
It's a constant process of adapting, learning, and growing.
It certainly is. It's the dance of autonomy.
A journey of continuous growth, self-discovery, and the creation of a life that feels both meaningful and authentic.
One source used the metaphor of durable structures when talking about autonomy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What do you think they meant by that?
That's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
I think durable structures could refer to those core values, beliefs, and principles that provide a solid foundation for our choices and actions. Just like a physical structure needs a strong foundation to withstand the elements, our inner structures need to be resilient enough to weather the storms of life's inevitable ups and downs.
So it's about those foundational elements that guide our decision-making. That provide a sense of stability and direction in the midst of life's uncertainties. And that help us stay true to ourselves even when faced with challenges or temptations to stray from our path.
Exactly. And the sources suggest that building these durable structures involves a deep understanding of ourselves, our values and our goals. It's about taking the time for introspection, for clarifying what truly matters to us, and for aligning our actions with those core principles.
It sounds like it's about cultivating that inner strength and integrity that allows us to stand firm in our convictions, even even when faced with external pressures or temptations to compromise our values.
Exactly. It's about building that inner moral compass that guides our choices and helps us navigate the complexities of life with greater wisdom and intentionality.
Another source talked about the importance of subverting the expectations of others as a key element of living autonomously.
Interesting.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It suggests a certain boldness and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that concept?
It's a powerful concept, isn't it?
It is.
It suggests that true autonomy sometimes requires a willingness to challenge the norms, to question the status quo.
And to make choices that might not align with what others expect of us.
Yeah.
It's about having the courage to forge our own path.
Right.
Even if it means going against the grain.
It's about recognizing that true freedom sometimes involves breaking free from those unspoken rules and expectations that can limit our potential and keep us playing small.
Exactly. And it's not about being rebellious for the sake of it.
Right.
It's about recognizing when external expectations don't align with our own values or goals and having the courage to choose a different path.
Right.
Even if it means facing criticism or disapproval.
So it's about discernment.
Yeah.
About knowing when to conform and when to challenge, and about using our autonomy to create a life that feels both authentic and fulfilling.
Right.
It's about trusting our intuition and making choices that feel aligned with our deepest truth.
Yes.
Even if they don't make sense to everyone else.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose, and that sometimes the most empowering choice is the one that defies expectations and sets us on a path that is uniquely our own.
One source really emphasized the importance of taking responsibility for our actions as a core component of autonomy.
Yes, that's so important.
I think that's something that can easily get lost in the conversation.
Right.
It's not just about freedom and choice. It's also about accountability and ownership.
True autonomy involves recognizing that we are the authors of our own lives.
Okay.
That our choices have consequences, and that we are accountable for the impact those choices have on ourselves and others.
It's about moving beyond blame and excuses and owning the choices we make, both the good and the bad.
It's about stepping into that space of personal responsibility.
Right.
And recognizing that we have the power to create the life we want, but also that we are responsible for the consequences of our actions.
And it's not about perfection.
Right.
We all make mistakes. We all stumble along the way. True autonomy is about learning from those mistakes.
Right.
Making amends when necessary.
And continually striving to make choices that align with our values and goals, even when we fall short.
It's about that ongoing process of self-reflection, accountability, and course correction that allows us to grow and evolve as autonomous beings.
I like that.
It's about recognizing that we are all works in progress, and that the journey of autonomy is a lifelong process of learning, adapting, and becoming more aligned with our truest selves.
Beautifully said, and that journey can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Leading to a deeper sense of self-awareness, personal responsibility, and the ability to create a life that feels both meaningful and impactful.
We were talking about some of the challenges to autonomy.
Right.
And one source brought up something called nice guy syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, what do you think they meant by that?
Sure.
And how it relates to this conversation?
That's a great question in this context. I think nice guy syndrome refers to the tendency to prioritize everyone else's needs and expectations above our own, often out of fear of conflict or a desire to please.
Okay.
It's a pattern that can show up in all sorts of ways.
Right. Like what?
From constantly saying yes to things we don't want to do, to sacrificing our own well-being to make others happy.
So it's about those people-pleasing behaviors that can actually undermine our sense of self and prevent us from setting healthy boundaries.
Exactly.
We end up living someone else's life instead of our own.
And the source suggests that overcoming this pattern is crucial for cultivating true autonomy.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our needs and desires are just as valid as anyone else's.
Right.
And that it's okay to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
To prioritize our own well-being,
Yeah.
and to make choices that might not align with everyone else's expectations.
It's about learning to value our own time, energy, and resources.
Yeah.
As much as we value those of others. It's about recognizing that self-care is not selfish. It's essential for showing up fully in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between being kind and compassionate towards others,
Right.
while also honoring our own needs and limits.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that true generosity and giving come from a place of wholeness and self-respect, not from self-sacrifice or depletion.
One source used a really vivid phrase that stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Don't let anyone else own your calendar. What do you think they meant by that?
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
I think it speaks to that sense of agency we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Recognizing that we have the power to choose how we spend our time and energy, and making conscious choices about what we prioritize and what we let go of.
So it's about setting healthy boundaries, learning to say no when necessary.
Yes.
And making sure that our choices reflect our own priorities and values,
Right.
not just the demands or expectations of others.
Right. Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our schedules
Okay.
and making sure that we're using our time and energy in a way that aligns with our vision of an autonomous life.
Sometimes that means making tough choices,
Yeah.
letting go of commitments, relationships, or activities that no longer serve us,
Right.
even if it's difficult or uncomfortable to do so.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose, and that sometimes the most empowering choice is the one that creates space for the things that truly matter to us.
Yeah, it's about decluttering our lives, both physically and mentally, to make room for what we want to invite in.
I like that.
One of the sources highlighted a connection I found really fascinating.
Okay, what's that?
The potential for autonomy to increase resilience, especially during times of crisis or uncertainty.
Right.
It makes sense that feeling more in control of your life would help you navigate tough situations. But I'd love to hear your take on it.
It's a powerful connection, isn't it? The source suggests that when we cultivate a sense of autonomy, we develop those inner resources and coping mechanisms that allow us to face challenges with greater strength and flexibility.
Right.
We build that inner confidence and self-efficacy
Yeah.
that allow us to problem solve more effectively, adapt to changing circumstances,
Right.
and bounce back from setbacks with greater resilience.
So it's not about becoming immune to challenges or hardship,
Right.
but rather about developing the inner strength and flexibility to navigate them with more grace and resilience.
Exactly. It's about having those tools in our toolbox.
Okay.
The self-awareness, the problem-solving skills,
Yeah.
the belief in our own capacity to handle whatever life throws our way.
And the sources emphasize that resilience isn't just about grit and determination.
It's not.
It's also about cultivating self-compassion, building strong support networks, and knowing when to reach out for help.
You're absolutely right. We don't have to go it alone. In fact, true resilience thrives in the context of supportive relationships, a sense of belonging, and the recognition that we're not alone in facing life's challenges.
It's about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to ask for help when we need it,
Yes.
and to lean on those who care about us.
Yeah, it's so important.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into autonomy.
We have.
From practical tips for self-reliance to deep philosophical questions about choice and freedom.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It has. What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's the reminder that autonomy is not a destination. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong process of self-discovery, growth, and the conscious creation of a life that feels both meaningful and authentic.
Right.
It's about embracing that journey with curiosity, courage, and a willingness to challenge ourselves to learn from our experiences and to continually evolve our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of independence or self-sufficiency.
Right.
But rather about continually striving to live in greater alignment with our values, our purpose, and our truest selves.
Beautifully put. And that journey is uniquely our own.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's about finding what works for us, experimenting, adapting, and trusting our own inner guidance.
As you process all of this information, we encourage you to reflect on this question.
Okay.
What area of your life would you like to feel more autonomous in? And what is one small step you can take today to start moving in that direction?
Good question.
Remember, even the smallest steps taken consistently
Yeah.
can lead to significant shifts over time.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
I hope this deep dive has provided some valuable insights and inspiration
I think it has.
for your own journey towards greater autonomy.
Thanks for joining us.